Средец, Карнобат, and Малко Търново. This national treasure has to be still and more developed, and all the foreign tourists who stay here on holiday need to be aware of this cultural heritage that we have. So we need more activity and more proactive businesses, and we have particular suggestions that we will. Thank you for your attention. I would like to wish you to have a successful and a really interesting conference today. Thank you very much for this detailed presentation of Burgas and the region and the southern part of the Black Sea coast. I hope we succeeded quite briefly to present to you the variety of our Black Sea coast. We need to continue with the last panel because we need to finish. If you have questions, please be quite brief.
Thank you, dear Mrs. Minister. I would like to address the issue of Burgas developing tourism. Our businessmen regarding the Gulf areas had told us that 2008 was a critical failure for investments. And one of the sectors affected by that was a boat connection, a maritime connection between Istanbul and Burgas and Varna. By the way, I'm the Consul General of Turkey in Burgas to represent myself. So nowadays we are hardly working on revitalizing that connection, and I would like to bring this point to the attention of Bulgarian investors, because if they could rent a boat and start working it, I'm sure the tourism activities limited with summer season might increase, because Burgas has very nice restaurants, opera, and of course a large stock of cultural heritage, which is number 3 in Europe after Italy and Greece. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you to ask direct questions. If you don't have questions, I would like to thank to all participants in this panel, and I really hope that we were useful with the information that we provided for you, so that you can be informed in detail about the opportunities for investing in our country. And so also we hope that you revisit Bulgaria as tourists with your families. I'd like to assure you that the Bulgarian government and local authorities, we are going into one direction, developing ourselves for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, the panel there. We've got one more session before lunch, and it'll be moderated by Mr. Gerald Lawless, who many of you will know, non-executive director, Expo 2020, Dubai, Turners Group, Greece, Advisory Board, Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority, Ambassador, WTTC, and many of you might know him as the founding former CEO of the Jumeirah Group in Dubai, and also a leading light with the ITIC. Gerald.
Thank you, Rajan, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I'm really, really conscious of the time element of today. Chris, can you sit there, please? And I'm just saying the doors are locked, so you have to stay now. And just think what you're going to do for sustainability by not having lunch today. So I really apologize for that, but we'll do our best to get you down for a light snack before we get you down for dinner afterwards. Well, we have a very interesting panel this afternoon, and we're going to address the issues as quickly as possible once we get everybody mic'd up and seated. So, much time. So this afternoon we're going to start with, we have Her Excellency Rania Al-Mashat, the Tourism Minister for Egypt, whom you've met already. Chris Rodriguez, who was entertained us earlier also, so needs no further introduction apart to say that he's now Chairman of the Port of London Authority, which I think could be quite interesting. Mr. Stephen D'Alfonso, Group Director of Public Affairs and Sustainability for the Thomas Cook Group. And Shaneshka Richer, business founder of Greenheart Consulting UK. Mr. Marcus Lee, whom you've met already. And Mr. George Papadakis, Director of Strategic Finance Development, Thames SA, Greece. And disclosure here, I sit on their board of directors, but I must say it's a very, very interesting company, and I'm sure George will have a lot of interesting facts for us. We also have some very quick slide presentations, and I'm going to indulge you a little bit to talk about a destination that I've lived in almost for 40 years. I first came to Dubai in 1978, and I think how Dubai has actually developed over those years and what it's done as a tourism destination is something that we can always use as an example of the impossible actually being achievable. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, has said impossible as a word does not exist in any of his dictionaries, and I think that when you see just some of these slides for a few minutes, you will understand this is very much what Dubai looked like in the late 70s, already quite a bit developed, but in a very narrow area. And this was one of the first major international hotels, the Hyatt Regency, which opened in 1981, already with 600 bedrooms. This, of course, was the beginning of the Jumeirah Group with the Jumeirah Beach Hotel. And just to have a look here at some of the numbers, and I hope you can actually see them, but the numbers here are there. In 1985, we had about 422,000 visitors to Dubai. In 1985 also, the Emirates Airlines was established. And in 1997, the Department of Commerce and Tourism Marketing was set up. 2004, we had 26,155 hotel rooms, and we had 5.4 million visitors. In 2018, we had 132,000 hotel rooms, which a lot of hoteliers are very concerned about that because they say, well, what a challenge it is to fill them, but they're still running at almost 80% occupancy, though the average room rates have dropped, but that's good, of course, for the attraction of tourists to the destination. And also in 2018, we had 15.9 million, almost 16 million visitors to Dubai. It is now the fourth most visited city in the world. And tourism almost contributes 40% of the GDP. This just gives you a quick map of where the business is coming from and how it's going to develop. And I'm going to show you a very interesting slide in a couple of minutes to show you where actually that business is coming from. And we were just talking about China, and we were talking about the importance of China and what it does. The Chinese visitations to Dubai were really not so huge about 2 or 3 years ago, And to the point that's been made earlier about visas, last year the United Arab Emirates offered visa waiver to Russia and to China, and our visitors from China rose by almost 50%. And looking now at China, China accounts for 857,000 visitors to Dubai, not just to the United Arab Emirates, but actually to Dubai in 2018. And that's looking very much like it's going to exceed 1 million Chinese visitors to Dubai. Still, India, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the UK are in the top three, with China's coming very quickly behind them. There are definitely new sectors as well that we're looking at in hospitality, and I wish we had more time to explore some of these sectors in terms of, for example, we talk about medical tourism, as Dubai is establishing itself as a centre of excellence for medical facilities. But I won't dwell on this at the moment. Also, we have some new landmark resorts. This is the new Kempinski by the Emerald Palace Group on the Palm Jumeirah. I mentioned just earlier that the homegrown brands, particularly of the Emirates Airlines, Emirates was established in 1985. This was Dubai International Airport in 1978 when I first came to Dubai. And this is Dubai International Airport today, which now has virtually 90 million visitors a year. And that makes it the third busiest airport in the world. The first is Atlanta, which we all know very much about. The second is Beijing, the third is Dubai, and the fourth is Chicago O'Hare. And believe it or not, Dubai surpassed London Heathrow as the busiest international airport as well in the world. 140 airlines and 270 destinations, which again proves that if a destination sets itself out with a proper infrastructure, and basically what drove Dubai to do it was not because of the massive oil wealth, which actually as a state within the Federation of the United Arab Emirates, Dubai had very limited resources in relation to be able to establish itself as a major hub, not only between Asia and Europe and vice versa, but between the Middle East as well and Africa, which is a very big growth market for the country. They now have 59 million passengers in 2018 and 274 wide-bodied aircraft. So we can see that Dubai is really a good example, and thank you for indulging me and allowing me to actually show you this, because I think that it really has so much going for it and such a good example of what can be achieved when the unity of purpose is there within the community to actually achieve, as we say to His Highness, the impossible. So thank you very much. I would now like to ask Her Excellency Rania Al-Masha if she would like to come to the podium, because she has a presentation as well on the development within her fantastic destination, Egypt.
Well, I'll try and be very brief because of delays, but unlike Dubai, we have an older legacy, and sometimes it's more difficult when you are trying to restructure something than to start from scratch. So that puts more challenges for the policymakers, it puts more challenges for those who want to move ahead, that strengthen the sector's competitiveness and are in line with international standards. We heard from the previous panel the point that it is very important to think about tourism as a macro sector, and therefore when we are reforming it, to basically look at the bigger picture and make sure that all the pieces within government, whether it's the infrastructure, it's the transportation, it's the education, everything falls in place in order to push forward the increased competitiveness and make sure that the sector moves ahead. Of course, the SDGs are extremely important. We had this discussion also earlier, and very important for destinations, policymakers to put them as key goals, because it really cuts across each and every aspect of tourism. Here's a link to the full document for the reform program for those who are interested, and the presentation will be available. Now comes something else which is quite significant. Tourism as a sector employs directly, but then there are 70 other industries which are indirectly employing people, and that's why when we get political commitment to do the reforms, making sure that there's buy-in from everyone. Our overarching objective is that we want to have at least one individual from each Egyptian household working in the sector. And that means that the skills that are required, as we heard earlier in the previous session, also need to be at the forefront of what policymakers are thinking about, because you need a skilled workforce to be able to tailor to the tourists, whether they come from China, whether they come from Bulgaria, whether they come from different places, the languages, the understanding of the cultures, etc. What are the pillars of our reforms? Institutional reforms, legislative, promotion and marketing, infrastructure and tourism development, and global tourism trends. Each one of these in the main document is actually drafted as a policy framework. So for each one of these, there's a goal, and then there are the procedures which are required to achieve these goals. And we don't have it published, but this is very important for everyone to know. Within the government, we have a very big execution matrix, which has the name of each ministry, what its role is going to be, and a timetable for achievement. So this is an extremely ambitious program, but as was mentioned, with political commitment and with the stakeholders around the table, stakeholders being the private sector, being the parliament, this is extremely important to push things forward. Sustainable tourism, since this is the session, I spoke a little bit about green tourism, and I just wanted to say that we have a Green Star certification program, and this, currently we have more than 80 hotels which are Green Star certified. They're in 50 different destinations, and that means 22,000 rooms. Egypt has 240,000 rooms across our different areas, and as you can see here, the Green Star Hotel you can find in Sharm el-Sheikh, Buna, you can find in Marsa Alam, in Luxor, in Hurghada. Why is this important? We just heard also in the earlier sessions that tourists are becoming smart tourists. They want to go to destinations which are environmentally friendly, where there's conservation of electricity and energy. So this is something that we are trying to promote. We are providing help to hotels to be able to implement this, also with international institutions. We just saw the previous panel, the EBI, the European, and the EIB, the European Investment Bank. We have a lot of coordination with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the EBRD, with the World Bank, etc. So the international community also taking stake in one of the most important sectors, which is tourism, is something which is key. Economic empowerment of women, that's another element, and I talked about the gender equality seal. This is the first time to be implemented in tourism, and here we have the requirements for that, and we would be happy to discuss further. Something else, digitalization. With the UNWTO, in April, we hosted for the first time the Tech Adventure Competition. We had startups from the region and from Egypt compete, startups in tourism, and this was a first time, but definitely not the last time. Digitalization also allows for more employment in the sector, so if we want every household to have one person working. It's not just the traditional jobs that we see in hospitality and so forth, but also there's a big space for innovators and the youth to basically get engaged. UNWTO award, again, political commitment is extremely important. Our President, His Excellency Sisi, got an award from the UNWTO for the E-Trip and the commitment for Sustainable Development 2030. I received an award from the WTTC on the resilience for tourism, and that again, the rebound that we've seen in the sector in 2017 and continued in 2018 was quite important, and also the spending that the government has done in terms of the infrastructure related to tourism and security was also something that was mentioned. Brand, that was something that was mentioned in the previous panel. So we talked about the politics of it, the people, again, our campaign People to People, and that is something that's going to be featured more in the months ahead. What you want to show the world is that your destinations has contemporary faces as well. So even though you have a lot of history, but at the same time there's art, there's music, there's modern food, etc. And then when it comes to sustainable tourism, you want to make sure that the communities within the destinations are actually being pushed up. So there come the people and the places. When you visit a destination, you want to know the traits of the people, you want to sit down and have the experience, and that again is from a lot of what we heard this morning, the immersive experience and the storytelling of a trip. Then comes the Grand Egyptian Museum, which we invite everyone to come and visit at the end of 2020. It is a huge project, and it will include the full collection of Tutankhamun. And I am sure that everyone will be surprised, even if you see Egyptian artifacts in different museums around the world. This is the only museum where you can take a selfie with both Tutankhamun and the pyramids at the same time. So it's extremely unique. And again, trying to push forward the cultural tourism, which in the past has sort of slided down a little bit. And that, again, if Egypt is successful in doing this, it also sets the trend for other countries when it comes to cultural tourism. And then destination branding, I showed the video earlier on. We are focusing on different destinations so that the seasonality issue that was mentioned before is one that is overcome. Not only that, repeat tourism can come because you have a full menu of destinations that you can keep on visiting. So I will just stop here. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Minister. I mean, that really sums it all up, doesn't it? A destination that has a fantastic leader, has a great strategy, really understands the complexity of everything it's doing, and what it's doing to show that tourism really is a force for good. What it can do to give prosperity to people, prosperity to a nation. I've been to Egypt, I'd say, about 120 times, and still I've hardly seen anything. So as you say, for the repeat factor and for the variety of what you have there, congratulations on everything you've achieved. That's fantastic. Chris, I said, how come you're on two panels so quickly, Chris, after you spoke so much in the last panel? And now here you are again. He said, you know, 30 years of experience, or what, 40 years of experience? I had still an awful lot more to say. So we would really like to hear from you, Chris, but just a couple of pointers, particularly in relation to the London Ports Authority. The number of actual locations that you have. You're now chair of this organisation. What is your approach towards towards cruise ships in particular, and of course towards sustainability?
Okay, briefly. We on? No. Briefly. The River Thames, the tidal River Thames, is 95 miles long. It has three parts. The trade part, which is where container ships load and unload, and it's the second port and soon to be the biggest port in Britain. A middle part, which is the tourist attraction, the Tower of London, the middle of the Thames, where our cultural history is, and then the upper Thames, which is where sport and cultural stuff happens. In terms of tourism, we are a relatively, compared to river cruising, we are a pimple. And so we're looking at other opportunities to grow that. We have some constraints because of the size of the river and the congestion that exists thereon. And we can't change that because although cities get bigger, rivers typically do not. So we have a limited cruise. We have done two things, particularly in sustainability, which I think is where you wanted me to look. One is we have an air quality initiative, which is the first in any major port. And it manifests itself not by legal methods, but by a reduction in port fees. The big problem for cruise line and smaller ships, not just the bigger ones, is there is no land to sea standard for hooking up the boat. So what you have in many, many places is ships coming with their diesel engines on, and that is not popular with the people who live nearby where the boats are landing. So there's a real issue in terms of standardized improvement, decarbonisation, and standardization of land power as opposed to diesel power. The other one is we suddenly dawned on us, and this comes to, I think, a point I think we'll hear from more later. We are working around as a board two thoughts. One is that if we are operating in this space and the pressure is for green, we have to have a very clearly articulated plan to decarbonise and make environmentally sensitive the organisation that is the Port of London, which is responsible for the environment on the Thames as well as for trade on the Thames. The second is a much more difficult point, and I'd be interested in discussion outside, and that is, how do we have the equivalent of a green flag on all of the operators? Because there are hundreds of operators of small businesses. I think that we are at a place where consumers will pick between a green and a non-green enterprise. And so the challenge is to, without having any legal powers, to incentivize by better commercial practice and commercial advantage people to adopt what a green river might be. I don't know what the answer is, but that's where we're going.
Well, I know, Chris, thank you very much. He's, like myself, he's a keen oarsman, so he definitely needs clean, green rivers. And Blackwood still rows as well. Chris, you did mention earlier, we were talking also about the awful term over-tourism. I mean, that's impossible to have too many tourists. But of course, it is possible to have too many tourists at any one time in any one location. And I know that in the UK, in places like Stratford and Avon, I mean, how do you get across the message that, how do you control situations where you don't have so many tourists that the local people start to rise up against them? The same has happened in Venice, where you have notices going up saying tourists actually not welcome.
I think a couple of points. The first is I think you have to get on the front foot as a that is a local tourism destination marketing team. You have to manage the local community's understanding and involvement with tourism. The minister's comment about a brilliant line, one person in every family. That means every family in Egypt can see the benefits of tourism, as well as some of the challenges. So the first thing is you've got to get the people who are the counterparties to at least want to come to the table and say, we know we want tourism, and then manage the expectations and manage the delivery.
Thank you so much, Chris. And just for the record, Dubai was ahead of the curve, not behind the curve, in that it actually developed an infrastructure with a metro and a really big bus service, where from hardly anybody using public service, it now has 500,000 people a day using the bus service and 1 million people a day using the driverless metro system, which works really well indeed. Well, thank you for that, Chris. And now we have to ask Shanesta Richter to also do a presentation to us, a quick slide presentation on what she does, particularly about how 10% of your company's business actually goes to projects you support, right?
Presentation, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Am I causing you trouble here?
I was sitting there thinking, I wish I'd been your tourism, head of tourism when you were tourism minister. It would have made my life a lot different.
Okay.
Looking good?
Yeah.
You have a
Thank you.
well, I mean, your background,
So,
yeah, I mean,
greetings, first of all, to everybody
Lucky
and your excellencies as well. And to our hosts here in Bulgaria. Dobar den I vi blagodarja za gostoprimstvo. My name is Neška. Thank you. My name is Neška Richter, and I'm the founder of a very small company called Green Heart Consulting. And I provide consultancy and training in tourism with focus on exclusive sustainability, responsible development, and customer service excellence. Yeah. So aside from that, I am also an accredited auditor for Green Globe. I don't know how many of you have heard of Green Globe before. I'm sure many have already. But before I continue, I would like to congratulate Your Excellency for the fantastic activity that disseminates directly to the grassroots level. So thank you for that. Of course, I am looking to tell you about implementing sustainability practices. One needs to be authentic and genuinely open and ready for this change. A friend of mine, an author, also economist from Croatia, says, I'm just talking about the ambition to offer the world original ideas with which will make us recognizable and which we will be active participants, unlike so far, developing only by following someone else's trodden path. So, sustainability and responsible development require involvement. And not only in environment, but also cultural and historic heritage issues, as well as socioeconomic. Green Globe certification, you will note benefits of certification that we're talking about here. So today's businesses across all industries require certification to provide independent assurance and that their enterprises operate sustainably. For more than 2 decades, Green Globe have been providing sustainability certification for the various sectors that make up the international travel and tourism industry. So the standard for sustainability has been applied to a great variety of sectors that make up the international travel and tourism industry. Now, so the solutions for sustainable management, of course, and we call them Green Globe solutions, are used by hundreds of professionals across the world, and they create and operationalize their company's sustainability management plans through that. It's an easy-to-use online system based on Green Globe internationally recognized standard for sustainable tourism with more than 40 globally accepted sustainability criteria across all departments and activities. Now, Green Globe is the highest standard for sustainability worldwide. It is also the original. So Green Globe advantages for tourism and business, as you can see, it's obviously across the board. Saving energy, improving staff satisfaction, increasing customers, and web audiences and media reach as an additional benefit of 1 million and more to date. And of course, I would certainly say that one very essential aspect is keep it real, as Xavier Font would say. Many of us know him. Implementing sustainability criteria in a business means improvement in efficiency, which equals savings. And also by improving the reputation and placing the business on the sustainability map. Marketing opportunities grow and just need to be recognized to make use of. Now, earlier today, I have heard several times the mention of following trends. Well, do you really want to be just following trends, or do you want to be a trendsetter? So, it is an original standard that obviously we have here, and all tourism eco-labels are based on it. When you're looking at benefits at real results, here are some that highlighted by Green Globe members. And obviously you can see as well that we do have members all around the world. So they come from all areas of the industry, and many are reputable international companies amongst them. So anybody from the ITB venue in Berlin to Mövenpick, Club Med and others who have shown serious dedication by certifying so many of their properties. It is important to note, actually, we are in, considering the region where we are, here in Southeast Europe, that 67 of the Green Globe certified members are in Germany alone, which means that Green Globe is almost a household name starting to be over there. And that probably should be important for the Southeast region, because I come from a little country called Croatia, and we definitely rely on German incoming tourists. I believe here it's the same fact. So if I may suggest, and we were talking about this, obviously some have been talking about this earlier today, direct cooperation of the Southeast European nations to market themselves as one destination is a key to support the opportunity for growth, but even so, why not consider the USP, unique selling point, of becoming the most certified sustainability region in the world? You have the opportunity, you've started the process, why not go for it? So, it's high time governments start endorsing private business to implement certification, sustainability certification, because certification translates into long-term commitment. Investing sustainably for long-term solutions is not a matter of choice. It is a matter of need and urgency. As key stakeholders in each project you approach, you bear the burden of our future. The fundamental key to success is education of future generations. However, we do not have the time to wait and let them to save the world. This responsibility starts with us now. Thank you. Yeah, and this is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neshka. And I'm sure really that rather than educating the future generations about sustainability, I think they're educating us. And definitely the customers will lead the way and the guests will lead the way in terms of demanding sustainable or sustainability certification, as Neshka has outlined. So well done, and thank you for that. And I'm really sorry to be doing this to my panelists, but we are trying to move it along so that we do get you to have lunch at some stage today. So I would now ask Mr. Stephen Alfonso to tell us about what's happening with Thomas Cook. What are you doing these days? What's his importance to this region? And just to give us some sense of the kind of movement you have into the region here, not just to Bulgaria, but for the Southeast European area in general.
Yeah, definitely.
It'll come on, don't worry.
It'll come on. I wanted to talk a little bit about and pick up some of the themes that we've already heard discussed here this morning and afternoon around the importance of hotels, the importance of destinations, the importance of innovation, and really all of those three themes come together right here in Sunny Beach for Thomas Cook next week, where we're opening up one of our newest concept hotel, Cook's Club Sunny Beach. There's only a few that are open elsewhere, one in Chersonesos in Crete, so it's a really fantastic concept in that it's a new hotel chain. It is geared towards younger travelers, but open to all travelers. And I think what's important about it in the sustainability agenda is very much that it's geared towards the social conscious of the younger traveler and some of the things that they would be interested in. So while a younger traveler from 10 years ago may have been keen on an all-inclusive, all-you-can-drink experience, the younger traveler of today is very much engaged in an experiential travel experience, wanting to understand local culture, wanting to taste local food, wanting to see local flora and fauna. And Cook's Club brings all of this together in the materials that are used, in the people that are employed, in the food that's served in the canteens. So we talked a little bit about this morning and today how it's important to lead customers, but at the same time I don't think that as a mass tourism business you can jump too far ahead of where your customers are. And what you can start to do is offer them the things that they do demand, the things that they do want, and that's what this concept does. In addition to the social side through our hotel innovation, and we do have many more Cook's Clubs opening later this year, in fact one in Elguna, which we're very excited about. We also have a more traditional approach to sustainability as well, recognizing our impact as a travel industry. I think we all need to recognize that this is a carbon intensive industry. People fly to get to where they're going for the most part, and we do need to try and mitigate that as much as possible. You look at the Nordics in specific, where the public consciousness about carbon emissions, and I suspect that's why our colleague from Finland brought the question up earlier, is extremely high at the moment. And again, an example of where we're sort of identifying that customer trend and trying to deliver a solution for our customers is we've offered offsetting free on all of our flights from the Nordics. So we're looking at how we might be able to roll that out across other markets. But it's the fact that our customers in the Nordics demand that of us that we're delivering it. In addition to that, we've got a really strong policy on plastics, trying to cut out 70 million items by the end of this year, and we're well on track to delivering that. A really strong animal welfare policy. Animals don't necessarily always fit neatly into the sustainability agenda, but I tell you, it's something that we know our customers are most concerned about. So I think it's balancing that traditional sustainability agenda, because our industry does have an impact and we need to mitigate it, with some of the less core environmental concerns of some of our customers around social inclusion and making sure tourism is a force for good. And that's what our new hotel brands are really trying to make intrinsic in the product.
Yes, and thank you very much. And when you think of what it does for animal welfare, particularly with tourism, that it saved so many species, it's really started to stop the illegal killing and slaughtering of elephants and other endangered species around the world. And a lot of that is thanks to tourism and the way we're now becoming educated. I gave Stephen a hard time yesterday saying that it's not just the young people who want to do the right thing, it's us guys as well. And I think that's something that we will continue to shout out for. And it's very nice to see Thomas Cook working so hard to change the way we do things as far as travel and tourism is concerned, and that we really do get the message across that we are a force for good. So thank you very much, Stephen. Excellent. Thank you. Marcus, I think that you need a visa to get out of Bulgaria because unless you invest a lot from what we've heard already. So it's again very encouraging to hear what your organization is doing. Just to look at the number of Chinese visitors that we showed, for example, in Dubai and how it has grown so quickly. Though Dubai has been linking with China since the beginning of this century. But I'd like to hear some more of what you think you can offer in terms of examples of successful destinations, sustainable destinations, and what the major challenges still are to cope with future tourism, not only from China, but actually globally.
Okay. Well, I think I'd like to redefine success. I mean, is it success in terms of return on investment? So, for example, we invest in Greece, the Port of Piraeus, that in 1 year, they reached 67% increase in profit. That's return of ROI. Is it in a success in drawing a different segments? For example, Dubai 2020, teams talk to me like for the 7th times right now because I told them you need to reach the my sectors.
I've just explained to the audience here that Dubai is the host city for the World Expo in 2020, starting in October 2020 and finishing in April 2021, which is a huge coup for Dubai, expecting 25 million visitations during that 6 months.
That's so much you mentioned Dubai. I thought I'm in Dubai now. So going back to redefine success. So I talk about Greece, I talk about Dubai. When I talk to Dubai, it's asking them, it's not about just this segment of mass market, but we need to open up a new segment like my sectors. How do you do that? How do you attract more higher quality tourists from China, for example, in a Maldives case? But all in all, I want everyone to go back to this morning, the country I mentioned, Samoa. All of you may have heard about this actor called The Rock. In a Hollywood actor, The Rock actually came from Samoa, the big guy with tattoo. Okay? Yes. So The Rock, the first time I learned about Samoa, I think about The Rock. Then I went to Samoa from the plane. I thought Samoa and Fiji looks the same. Then I looked down, it looks like Jurassic Park. And then they told me Samoa is the second cleanest air in the world. So we're not going to change that. So let's redefine success of investment from the sustainability perspective and from the perspective of maintaining the heritage and culture. Since July, August last year, when I was appointed the Prime Minister Samoa Special Envoy to China, I launched them an 8-month program. What did we do? We invest in the airport of Samoa. We upgrade them to be China ready. We help them with the hotel reconstructions because they were affected by cyclone. So we helped them. We bought 2 hotels with the casino I mentioned just now. But that's not all. Through this program, we try to hire more local people to make sure that the culture can be spread around the world. That we talk about heritage, sustainability. So when we promote in China, promotion is the key. When you want to enter China market, where is your, how do you show your culture? That's important. They bring the dance, like the Maori, and some more have their own dance. So all in all, in summary, what I want to say is, when I redefine success, if we can combine investment return with maintaining the heritage, that's important. And of course, keeping it the second worst cleanest air in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, I will go on straight away to George Papadakis, who is the Director of Strategic Finance and Development for Temis. And you have a very interesting story to tell about how your projects have developed, particularly in a part of Greece that needed prosperity, that needed some assistance. So if you like to stay where you are, I'll give you this.
Yes.
Is that okay? Thank you. And your mic is on.
Thank you. So yes, indeed, it's a very interesting story, but I'll keep it short as I understand that I'm the last barrier between people and their lunch. So, as Gerard said, I work for Temis, and Temis has a flagship, is a premium developer, investor and operator of hospitality destinations and assets, and its flagship development is in Messenia, which is in the southern western mainland of Greece, in the Peloponnese. So in that area, the founder of Temes, Captain Vasilis Konstantakopoulos, started acquiring land back in the 80s with a huge vision to transform the area and put it on the world map and helping in this way the people, the local people, from finding jobs and not having to migrate. So within the 80s and the 90s, the company where I was acquiring land has a huge land bank, and today it has developed a part of it. It's the upper left part, where it has developed an integrated resort with two luxury hotels, 2 golf courses, and various leisure facilities. It's an ongoing development. It's one of the largest ongoing developments in Europe, and as you may see, there are 2 more colored areas. The green one is where we have now ongoing development, and the other one is where we have future plans for development. So this is our timeline. The company was founded in 1997 and started construction in 2007, 10 years later, after it managed to benefit from the regulatory framework which allowed such massive investments. The hotel started operating in 2010, and today, actually 2 years ago, we acquired also but the companies, although at the time had based everything on 3 sustainability pillars, and these were financial sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. I will explain more, and just to say that for these practices, the company was awarded in 2014 as the most sustainable investment in tourism in the world. We do endorse all the CDGs, I'm sorry for the type on the title, and we focus on the ones that make more sense for our development, for our type of resort development. And we have developed a propulsive industry model, which has 8 main pillars, starting with increasing the tourist arrivals by improving accessibility. We have invested a lot in attracting airlines to the airport of Kalamata. We have succeeded in the last 10 years, almost 500% increase in the number of flights in the arrivals, and a very big increase in the international traffic. Every year we add a couple of airlines, and this has brought many tourists in the area. And what is very interesting is that only 12% of those tourists end up in our resort. The remaining go in the area. The second pillar is enhancing the attractiveness and awareness of Messinia as a whole, of the whole area. So, of course, we have a budget for the destination development, but what we have noticed is that the journalists that write about Costa Navarino and about our investments, they actually allocate 50% of their coverage to talk about the area and what is in the area in terms of gastronomy, in terms of culture, in terms of nature. So this has created a climate for investments in the area and further enhanced the growth of the area. We have managed to extend the tourism season by investing in golf and sports and conference facilities. As I mentioned, we have 2 golf courses, and we are building now 2 more. And all this has a huge impact on the local economy. We have estimated that the local economy has benefited with over 1 billion from our investments, and there is an annual benefit of over 120 million with a multiplier of 2.6. Obviously, the local taverns and restaurants and entrepreneurs benefit a lot from the tourism that comes in the area. And we have managed to still procure 60% of our supplies from the area. When it comes to F&B, this is even higher, it reaches 80%. We have a foundation that supports the local agriculture, the local farmers with specialists, with agronomists and regional agencies, and is very active in the area. And we contribute to employment all year round. It's very interesting that for each one job in Costa Navarino, there are almost another job created in the area. So we are, of course, very active in protecting the natural environment. We have founded the Navarino Environmental Observatory, which is a research center that observes climate change in cooperation with the Academy of Athens and the Stockholm University. And we have the Natura Hall, which is an environmental education museum in the resort, and is visited by schools. This, of course, all this we've been awarded multiple times and has raised the awareness of Costa Navarino internationally, and this creates a virtuous. Thank you very much. The key message is that the future belongs to the companies that are willing to lead the transformation towards a sustainable future.
Thank you, George. Really, a truly amazing story that I'm glad to see firsthand as well. And a very important point you made towards the end, that is, it's also profitable. Because after all, there is no CSR, and in my opinion, very little sustainability if there isn't a good profit growth and a good return as well for investors. There's nothing wrong with making profits.
Otherwise, it will not attract investor interest.
No, so you won't get the investors, you won't even have the tourists eventually. But I would like to say, is there anybody who would like to ask a question, apart from the fact, how long does it take to get back for lunch, and is the restaurant still open for lunch? But I'm sure it is. But any questions from the audience? It's been so comprehensive, we got it all, and it's so late, and I've been told to get off the podium. And I'm sorry for being so rushed with the panel, and I do appreciate your patience, but most of all, I appreciate the great knowledge that you've shared with us today. And thank you very much. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, yes, we talked about China already. I think we are definitely lunch ready. Let's all go outside. There's buses waiting to take us to the Inner Sands Hotel. We're going to restart at 4 o'clock after the networking lunch and go on till 5:30. So there'll be shortened sessions. But if we can make our way as quickly as possible to the bus, on the buses, that'd be great. Thank you very much.